Welcome everybody to this, I guess first time, we'll do this every 5 years. First time 5-year report on the NSITSP. And I will be joined obviously by our president, Kirkendoll. And I'm going to go through the first few slides pretty quick just to get to the meat. Chat is enabled, so talk about us behind our backs. Yes, it's being recorded, as we just discussed, by everybody's note taker and everything else. So we're going to talk a little bit about how we got here. I think everybody's pretty familiar with that. And then some of our goals and our report cards from Corey's perspective and my perspective. And it's almost funny to say, well, this doesn't represent the organization, except, it's kind of hard for us to not represent the organization. But we are human beings, and this is our perspective. And then some discussion about where do we go from here. And then I really would love to have an open conversation about some of this stuff. Shout out to our supporters. So we have a handful of sponsors who have donated to us and are making it possible for us to move forward, and we appreciate that. We also have a handful of training partners who are, and we're going to get more, but these are people who have signed up and are offering courses and continuing education units through our organization. So quick note, I think most of you know this, but when this all started was about 5 years ago. I wrote a bunch of blog posts, and then I gathered them up into a document that is under the About page, under History, there's, if you scroll all the way to the bottom, there's a link to the Transforming an Industry into a Profession white paper that I put together. And we held a couple of meetings, and a lot of people said, hey, we should do something. We should start an organization. And so I started having Kara, my web developer, work on a website. And I told her just something simple, And then 4th of July weekend, I went to Nashville. And the Kaseya attack blew up, and so did my phone. So I had 100 text messages of, what the hell's going on. And decided, we are being misrepresented in the media. I heard people on the radio being interviewed, and the interviewers are saying things like, oh, this company must not know what the hell they're doing. And the people who set this up must not have set it up right. And I'm like, you absolutely have no idea what you're talking about. And it just struck clear to my bone how people are talking about us, our industry, and we are not at the table. We are not part of that conversation, and we have to be. And, every time I talk to somebody about, oh, we should have started this sooner, they all say, yeah, we should have started it 10 or 15 years ago. But now we can say, well, we did start it, and it takes a long time to ramp up. But 5 years is a bit of a milestone. And so then I got together with Eric Simpson, who I think most of you know, and Rayanne Buccianico and Kara, and I said, hey, how do we start an actual corporation and a nonprofit? I've never done this. And Rayanne did a lot of the paperwork in Florida, and we created a corporation, which then created the nonprofit, and we launched from there. And so that's literally the very beginnings in July of 2021. So I always consider July kind of our birthday. And we have very clear goals. Our mission and vision goals are on our website. And I encourage everybody actually to download the Code of Ethics and put some form of that on your website. Whether it's exactly that doesn't particularly matter. I think it matters that we, as an industry, lead with ethics, that we put it out there and say, hey, there's a lot of bad actors in the world. We are not one of them. You can hold us to these standards. And I think if you lead with that, it helps a lot, not just to build relationships, but also to take down some of the barriers, because in many parts of our industry, we have a bad reputation, and a lot of people are just rolling with the flow and saying, oh, well, I only need, whatever, 100 clients. I don't need to have 1,000 clients who, are are going to hire us just because we're a low price or whatever. We also have put together a strategic plan, and that is available to members to read. But basically, it's a pretty clear plan that I think is pretty much going to be laid out with what we're doing here today. So, a report card. Again, we'll start with my perspective, and then Corey will give his. I think it's awesome that we have regular elections, and as small as that may seem to some people, our committee structure, our code of ethics, all of those things came into existence almost instantaneously. And then when we started having elections, one of the challenges of any organization is, are those elections successful a year later, 2 years later, 3 years later? And we have had good elections, good turnout, actual competition for positions. We've had people who lost a position and then ran again the next year and regained it. So, these aren't just like a lot of organizations. They give you a slate and you vote yes or no. And you don't really get to, as a member, you don't get to decide anything about the elections except whether or not you're going to vote yes or no. And of course, we have a membership directory, which exists on our site, but has the potential to be a major tool for people to find IT consultants. And so it's something that we have great potential to take advantage of going forward. Our education, and this is one that is just literally like finishing its initial stages right now and is ready for a major push, and that is continuing education units and developing training programs. And so I say 99 and 44% pure complete. And if you're old enough, you know what that's a reference to. But that program, we already have 3 organizations signed up to offer courses and events. And many of you attended the S&B online conference. And so you can request your 10 hours of CEUs for attending that event. And more about that program will evolve in the months ahead. But that committee has just worked its tail off. And every time we get together, it's amazing how much progress is made. Yellow light, in my opinion, growing the membership. So we got to about 300 members almost instantaneously. And we have very much stalled on growth. And we need to have a serious push to actually get people to take it seriously and sign up. Many people say that they love what we do, but they're not willing to shell out $200 a year to make it happen. And I don't know what it means to say I love something, and I support everything you do, but not with my 2 hours or an hour and a half of labor. Everybody in this industry can afford membership. So the question is, why are they not joining? And that's something we need to work on. Vendor partners, pretty much the same thing. We started out with a number of vendor partners, but we have had zero luck in growing them and to attract more vendor partners. And part of it is that we refuse to give away our mailing lists and trade, advertising for these dollars. So that's a price we pay. Advocacy, and we're going to talk about this more in a little bit, but we have had some positions where we've taken a stand, but we could be doing a lot more, in my opinion. And in all of the organizations in this industry, we are the only one that is a C6 that has decided that we will try to influence legislation. And most of the others are 501c3s. If they're a C6, they can lobby. If they're a C3, they cannot. Those that are C6s have just decided they're not going to be in the lobbying business. They're not going to try to influence legislation. And I think that is in part because they are dominated by vendor dollars. Those are my opinions, but I think there's a connection there. And so I think that we should take a stand, because what we stand for is not bizarre or unusual. it might be a little controversial, but I don't think quality of performance should be controversial, in my opinion. We have a badge program, which a lot of work went into that, and it has been launched and it's out there, and it needs to be pushed more, as well as being more widely used. And so that's something where it's out there. It just needs to get its fair share of attention. Industry trade shows. Again, we've had some presence, and we had many, many volunteers, and we're launching a program to try to get more volunteers. There's many organizations that will let us have a booth or a table, but we got to organize it, and they always want to negotiate and so forth. And so it's an uphill climb, but we're continuing to work on it. CEUs, back to the education part. Continuing education units are something that the Professional Development Committee is working on to develop programs where we could say, for example, to meet a certain level, you have to have so many CEUs plus these other requirements like a business license and insurance and so forth. So that is coming in the future, and I only put it in the yellow category because I don't think it should have taken us 5 years to put our attention on that. Again, my opinion. We also have, on the administration side, we've had challenges from day one, and we are finally in a position, literally this week, of hiring a virtual assistant who will help us with lots and lots and lots of the little stuff, because our volunteers do amazing stuff, but you cannot ask people to give 20 and 30 hours a week when they got a real job that they're trying to do so that they can afford their $200 membership. Finally, the red light, in my personal opinion, I believe that we should be pushing model legislation. It is my opinion that we should push legislation to register IT consultants with the state so that there is a registry database. And many, many people are opposed to this, and many people who have advocated to do other things have advocated against this because they think that it will turn away small people or people who are not willing to do certain things. In my opinion, it will turn away people who are amateurs and want to stay amateur. And there's nothing in the proposal that the Legislative Committee put together that would stop people from getting in this business and not registering with the state as long as they meet certain minimal requirements. If you basically are doing this part-time and half-assed, well, okay, then you don't get on the list. But if you are a professional, then anybody in the state should be able to look up and see that you are registered with the state in this industry. Think about, in my opinion, contractors. You can look up a contractor and see if they have a license and whether they have actions against them and so forth. I think that is something that will strengthen our industry and allow us to be taken seriously by state legislators and by our clients and potential clients. So again, my opinion, but it was one of the strongest things that I wanted to push 5 years ago when I wrote that white paper. And it is the one thing where we have fallen flat on our face, in my opinion. So there's that. And then that's my note. I would say, if you look back on this list, I listed 15 major initiatives. And so we got, in my opinion, a few red lights, but out of 15 major initiatives, we have done amazing stuff and an amazing amount of work in 5 years. And I think you're hard pressed to find another organization that has done so much in so little time. So that's my 10 cents. Now, here is your president, Kirkendoll.
All right, Carl. Thanks, Carl. That was great. I agree. We have done some amazing things, and we got a lot more work to do. And I think everybody that's on this call that are in a committee that have served, that are members, deserve a round of applause, because we couldn't do it without you. So we really appreciate and all the things you do to support us. Carl, are you going to drive the slides, or how can I do it? So one of the things we talked about, right, in 5 years, I can't remember. I remember it was almost like yesterday when Carl asked and said, "Hey, here's what's going on." I still can't believe that it's been that way. So I want to talk about how we go from the foundation to actually become that influencer, right? And what are we doing to continue to drive and things we need to firm up and go to the next level. So the movement we're in, right? What we built. We have mission, values, elections, committee, education programs. We see all those things that are in place, right? And what we proved is there's a need, and we have a constant need for what we want to go forward. And we definitely see that. As we look out there at the other organizations that are out there, a lot of them have some of these things that we do, but nobody really puts to hold the bar up and hold you accountable for some of the things. And I think that's the piece where we feel. That puts us in a unique position when we talk to our partners and vendors and how we control and actually protect this channel and this environment and this ecosystem that we built, right? All of us who've come from corporate America or come from somewhere else, right? The MSP channel is a very unique in that way, of way we care and way we hold and we hold each other accountable. But it is kind of loosey goosey out there, and sometimes it can be the wild, wild west. And what we're saying is we're not trying to change and say you cannot participate. We're just saying we want a level of bar that says we are here and we want to hold everybody accountable to do those things. And we're seeing that our vendors that we're talking to are interested in that same way because they believe that the MSPs or the IT service providers that are up and have that level of confidence and a level of ability to do certain things is always going to be a better partner for them. And they're seeing that and they like that. And they say, hey, if I can go that way and go that path, they're more established, they're ready, and they're ready to listen. And they're moving to grow and be able to do it. And that's the kind of partner we want to have with that. So I believe the foundation is here. The roadmap for is execution, and nothing happens by itself. And that's why it's going to be very needy for all of us to get involved and really uh, strap in, pull up our boots, and let's go to the next level. So, how do we move from awareness to action, right? The proof is not enough. Is the proof of need is not enough. We need to prove execution is where we need to go next, right? We have to organize, make sure our work is aligned with clear priorities, with dedicated owners and committees that need charters and where we want to go. And I think we're moving down that pace because as we went through our transition over the last few months, I cannot uh, I cannot say enough about the communities and the chairs who really stepped up to make sure that we continue to grow. So we definitely have the foundation that we need to grow, build a membership base. We cannot grow without our memberships, right? And like Carl said, we're kind of stalled in where we are from that perspective because we've had some hiccups and some things. And I think we have to go back out there and show them the value. Those who are in and are committed, we have to go out there and understand why you're in and how you committed and get others who have that same value and that same goal to come back and do it the same way and bring them aboard as well. Because we're going to need them for one, to continue to grow the organization, but we also have to do succession planning because those who started and those who are in those positions today can't continue to be there forever. We need to make sure we have strong roots to keep this going, and that's how it goes. And we have to advocate, show up consistently at state and local federal leads, right? And the way we do that and the way the legislative committee is done is we want to teach others because there's no way we can build an organization where we have 50 people, 51 people all over the place at everything that we're doing to be able to go that. We want to make sure that we teach at how to be an advocate, how to go influence in your state at the local, state level, government level, federal level, all of the levels, so that you can have that because that truly is a competitive advantage for you, but also gives us a voice to make sure that you understand and people are speaking about your business and how it grows. And then influence. Let's drive actual incomes of professional and conversation from the beginning, right? Making sure that when we say out there, we're not trying to eliminate or alleviate anybody, but we all know that when one MSP coughs, we all catch the cold. So why don't we go out there and try to make it and try to build some level of immunity as much as we can? And that's kind of how I look at this is we're raising that bar to make sure that we are all doing what we say and saying what we do and no more, no less. Being honest, open, but we're doing it consistently, right? I think all of us has had a situation where we brought on a customer or picked up someone who had a previous service provider and you can kind of tell it hasn't always been the greatest, right? There's a lot of things that was left for hope, but we want to make sure that we at least have some consistency so that it's not that bad when you pick up one or you transition to one, or do we have a bar to be able to say, here's where we all perform at. I think that's something we can all grow to aspire to be. So Membership growth belongs to everyone. It's not just the committees and the board that has that responsibility. I believe it's everybody, right? And so we have to go out there and help in any way we can to explain, right? Know why our partners and why people who are members of us are able to do that. When you talk about it to the peers, to everybody we come into, it cannot be the best kept secret. We need to invite people to meetings like this, to our board meetings, to our sessions, bring them out when we speak, and always have it as top of mind. And make sure that the logo, as you being a member, is prominent across everything that you do to be out there and show that you're proud to be a part of this organization and what we do. And then activate, right? Build something local. Have referral networks. Look out there. Talk about where it comes from. As you see others out there that may not be towing the bar or looking for resources, what a great place to bring other MSPs or other partners into to say, here's what we're doing, and we would love for you to be a part of it. So we need everybody's efforts to be able to do that. So activate partners around alignment, right? So our goal is not just sponsorable, but goal alignment. One of our biggest challenges that Karl pointed out is, hey, how do we go out here? Because everybody in our channel wants to market to us. Hey, you got MSPs? Great. We want to get in front of it. Great. How do we get that list, spam them, email them, and continue to sell to them? That's been our one barrier, but I believe it's a strong one that we stand firm is that we're not looking for you to come and market to our people. We're looking at you for to align with us and understand that there's a level of credibility and a level of conduct that you require for being your partner and come along and do it. We want you to come and educate and recruit, bring others, advocate and be there to say, hey, this makes sense. We want to make sure we're doing the right thing when it comes across all of the security programs or any of the things like Safe Harbor and other things that we've already talked about and what we talked about when it came to CISA, right? We want them to know that that ultimately has effect on their products. So therefore, come join along with us to make sure that we don't put up any barriers that may affect them or us long term. Then how do we do joint campaigns? We believe this is not something we can do all by ourselves. So we're totally off open to having partners that align with us, that meet and talk to our same members. Well, we're willing to be able to support what we're doing to say, hey, what they're doing is right and our missions align. So how do we get on board and to be able to support and continue to move forward? And we're seeing that across the board in some of the conversations we're having with some of the other industries and partners that are in the channel as well. So let's make advocacy practical and local, right? Let's take it back down to where it looks like. And I think this is where we're going to have to train everyone because we don't have enough resources to do this. How do we do this at local? How do we get people engaged into their local city councils and governments and agencies? And how do we go do that? Because I live in here in Texas and man, we got it at every level. And I would love to be able to say, how does it affect me on all levels? And how do I go and advocate and be a part of that? How do I do it at the state level? And how do I do it at the federal level? Because we know this is an expensive task for those who were doing it before. We all know of another organization that was doing it, but it just became cost prohibitive to be able to challenge and do this across the board. So in order to stop putting money out there and going out there and fighting that fight, they decided to pull out totally and do some other things because it just didn't have the resources to come do that. But I think it takes all of us to be able to do that and to be able to do it for yourself and continue to grow and to continue to show how we're going to not just have a seat at the table, but we're going to demand that seat and make sure that our voices are heard for us and the customers that we protect as well. So let's keep the legislator's message simple, right? Professional standards, ethics and trust, cyber education, and policy voice. We want to do what's right. We all see it every day in the news. We see AIs coming in. We see the hits, the attacks. We see all those things, right? Let's make sure that our customers and clients that we protect know that we have a voice to go out and protect them because in some cases they're not doing it for themselves or they don't know that it exists and it has a direct impact on what they do and how we do it as well. Let's keep it simple, making sure that we're doing to that path. Set that professional level of standards that this is how we do business and we expect that across the board. And it's okay to challenge your peers sometimes just to make sure that they're leveling up as well. Ethics and trust. I think that's where it all comes down to is that, hey, this is all about building that right relationship and that ethics and trust and that transparency is huge across the board and how we do. And I can't say enough about cyber education. Make sure that they are understanding what their risks are, what they actually ask us to protect and what we're asked to protect and make sure we're doing the right thing and not taking the side street when we know we need to take the major highway to get to where we go because that's where the ultimate impact and the biggest value is going to come from. And then make sure we have a voice when it comes to policies that make sense that we know to have a direct effect. whether we're standing up against it and going hard in and taking a stance, or even just making everyone aware that something is happening, just so they know that, hey, I might need to check in because it's going to have a direct impact on me and or my customer base. So let's make participation easy. Some of the things we're working through and want to go down that path is, hey, we don't want you to start from scratch. We want to give you what you need from a template to go out there and say, hey, come join us. Here's what we're doing, to invite someone to come through that process. Get phone scripts to help you out and have that conversation as well. Complete meeting guides. If you have a local meeting or something else that you want to do that we're following a standard and frameworks, make sure it's recorded, make sure it comes back, transcribed, and what are the next action items, and continue to follow up. And then how do we do brief and one pagers, right? All the issues that we see out there, there's always something in our industry that needs to be paid attention to or written about to share what we want to get done. But I think we have the team and the leaders to be able to do that, to make sure that we take a professional stance on what happens when it comes to something we need to pay attention to, or just make them aware, right? We don't have to be the end all or be all, but I do think we need to start those conversations, engage in those conversations, and become that place where people seek, looking for our guidance because they look at us, the organization that can really do something, that are trying to do something right. So standards and communication, education are key, right? One of the things we want to make sure is leveling up and making sure that as things change out there, you constantly have to stay on top of your game, right? AI changes constantly. By the time we get off this call, it has changed 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times. Cybersecurity is the same way, and our technology continues to evolve. So we want to execute the CEU program as we already started to do that. And we're, as Karl said, we're 99.44% there. Hopefully we'll get all the way through. Educated and the education of badge recognition, right? We want you to be proud of holding the badge of what you're doing as we walk through that CEU and how we go through that process. And then keep the ethics bar high. That's where it comes from. We're not going to drop the bar and let everyone walk into it, but we want to do it. If you want to play and be an IT service provider or an MSP, there's a bar that you have to get up to, and we hold that and we protect that and we hold that dear to our hearts and our mission and what we do. So show up where the industry gathers, right? As you're out there, right? We have some things where there's a pin, there's something to do it. Make sure you're at those trade shows and you're out there talking to everybody, and let them know that I'm a part of this organization and where you come from. If there's a trade show that we're not there, we're looking on the membership to be an advocate, talk about what we are, hand out cards. If you have an opportunity to speak, find a way to let everybody know that you got to where you are influenced, and you're part of an organization you're proud for. Make it in your presentation, or we'll find a way to present and give you the things to present at those trade shows that we go to, channel events, vendor conferences, partner communities. There's no way that all of us that are on the committees and the board can be everywhere all the time. So we're looking forward to having our members. If you believe in what we're doing, you're a paid member, we would love to get you engaged and show you how to go out there and get that recognition, but also raise the voice of why this is important to you and how you expect and demand it for all the others that are in the industry as well. So what's our action plan and what our next move, right? Grow membership with a purpose. Our goal here is to reach out, as we've already started to do, to those who were paid members, who are no longer members, and ask them, why did they not engage and why did they not renew, and how do we get them back engaged? We're also looking for new members that are out there. As you're out there in different trade shows and different organizations and different events, please talk about what we do. Talk about why it's important. You are our biggest advocate because you're our members, and there's a reason why you pay and you support. We'd love to have others come on board and do the exact same as well. We're going to create an advocacy toolkit that we already started to do, and we start to see that, where we have templates and phone scripts and places of how you actually get engaged. Formalized partner engagement. We have partners that are coming to us really wanting to get engaged and say, how do I get engaged? We're really starting to see a good trend that they want to come and educate us and be our partners and go forward. So we're seeing that engagement. People are hearing about it and they want to do it because they trust you as their customers, because they want to be a part of what you're doing. You just got to let them know how to get involved and how to get engaged. Launching our education programs with our partners that are coming out there to be able to train and really understand our industry. And if you have others out there that have educational programs, and I'm sure you're aware of those out there that want to get engaged, we'd love to have a conversation with them to talk about how they become a training partner and to become out there to continue to educate and grow our membership as well. building an advocacy calendar, right? That's to take certain quarters or certain months where we go out there and we do outreach to our states and local and federal governments. So we go out there and reach out to them, not always waiting for them to come back to us. One, let them know that they're talking about a bill or talking about some law or legislation matter that it may include us. We may not be a part of it. We want to at least know and be aware and have a seat at that table. And then let's define what our legislative priorities are. What do we want to take a stance on? What do we want? But what do we want to make sure that everybody's aware? Because I believe, as Karl said, and I truly believe in that in his point as well, is that this is one part and one area that we have to be more proactive on and do a lot more in. And we just have to find the right way to get there. We're never going to make everybody happy and everybody's not going to be good, but we got to find that right balance and be able to move and go make those things happen. So the next 5 years have to be about influence, growth, and getting things done, right? Over the last 5 to 6 months, we made some changes. I think we've been for the better, be able to streamline and to get out of our own way to make sure we continue to grow and put a lot of emphasis, a lot of power back into the committees to make decisions and to move a lot swifter. And we're seeing that happen. Being able to hire a virtual assistant to take some of this off our plate. We just need to know where we need to align, what we need to get done, and how do we continue to move those things forward. And being open and honest in all our communications of where we go forward. If you see something out there, say something. Don't just leave. Don't just eject. Don't just not renew. Let us know how we can fix it. Let us know what we need to do or something that we're not doing. We would love and appreciate that, right? NSITP gives us the platform. Now we need the members, the partners, and the collective voice to move the profession forward. Nothing happens by itself, and we need all of you. And I really sincerely appreciate all the time and effort that you do and put into this. We couldn't be where we are. We wouldn't ever got past the 1 year if we didn't get here. So I'm looking forward to the next 5, 10, 20, 30 to show that we're an organization that started in the grassroots from Karl and a few having a few ideas and a little bit of frustrations. And look how we move mountains and look at what we're doing. Thank you, guys. I know we had more. We can go to the next slide, Karl.
Right.
So you want to talk? So let's talk about why membership matters, right? So we had 100 plus founding volunteers, 5 years of foundation, and we have a strategic plan. And that's really big for us because we actually have a plan of where we want to go over the next 2 or 3 years, and we continue to update that. And what that comes down to is how do we pass that on and build that legacy and adjust where we're needed, right? And we're going to need that from a membership perspective to grow and make sure we have good volunteers to be able to handle that succession and continue to move forward. So looking ahead, build, grow, influence, right? Phase 1 is already done. Phase 2 is starting. Now we're looking at figuring how we grow and maintain the challenges over the next 5 years. That's also our biggest opportunity. How do we go and continue to do that? And that's going to happen with membership, industry partners, and how we train and educate and what we do in legislation, right? So I think we have that foundation. Let's continue to build on that and let's continue to move forward. So don't want to be that talking head. We said a lot. Want to keep it up for some open discussion right here. And in this, totally open, totally transparent, right? Share your ideas, share your concerns, volunteer your energy. What do you want to talk about? I'll open the floor to have that conversation. And again, I do sincerely appreciate and thank you all for attending today as well.
All righty. So I think you all have our contact information, and so there we are. I'm going to go ahead and stop the share so we can all just have a group discussion. I will say, one of the things that to me is most amazing is the amount of, not just the amount of volunteers, the quality of the people who have stepped up. We've been blessed that we've started with having Amy Babinchak as president, who was the perfect person as a community leader and grower. And then Steve Kazan stepped in and started, helping us reach out to other groups and did an amazing job. And I guess sort of taught us a little about PR. And now Corey is really helping us grow deeper hooks into many of these groups and, getting us attached to several events. So, that's been amazing. And I think we've had close to 60 people volunteer for the current committees and probably over 100 over the course of 5 years. And these aren't just, average Joes. We have some amazing people on our committees who have brought tremendous personal capability and intelligence and great perspective. Like people like Keith, like super old perspective, on the entire industry and its 75-year history. So anyway, I just want to give a shout out because every volunteer organization relies on human beings to step up, and we have been blessed with the people who have done so. All right, I'm going to shut up now.
I agree.
That I should shut up.
So it's on the floor. Any questions, thoughts, comments? We crazy? We should pack up and run? Floor is open.
I was wondering, Karl, if you could expand a little bit more on how old Keith is.
No, but now that I have the floor again, Jason Thomas put together a 3D recipe, I guess, a pattern that you can download from our site in the member resources area. And if you have a 3D printer, just download those files and you can print your own sign of any size you want and take that to a show if you want.
And if you don't have a 3D printer, send me a message and I will get some printed.
$99.95.
Thank you for doing that, Jason.
No ups, no extras.
Anybody? Comments? Questions?
Yeah, I'd like to see us, for those of us that aren't real salesy, have some session on going to trade shows and representing the organization. More of a like I wrote in the comments, a real downloadable packet. I think that's more efficient than shipping stuff back and forth. Some trade show for dummies. Where I just walk into Kinko's. That's how old I am. Kinko's and get 50 flyers printed. And then just some talking points, and then maybe even a link we can put on our iPad or something when we're at a show and just says sign up here. I think that's so much more effective. How many times you walk away from a trade show and go, I meant to sign up, but now I didn't. The close, hand them the pen close. And so that'd be something that I thought would be really helpful. And then like I said, I've said from the beginning, I'd be happy to help people on the advocacy part too. That's something I've done and I see what Karl's listing there, and I'm just thinking just put it in one really nice downloadable packet.
Oh no, that's something else. We do have. As you're just saying, so we do have a lot of those resources already, and they're in the member resource area. But as we get more and more and more stuff, and people volunteer more and more of their time and energy, we get more resources, and we got to figure out a way to organize it. And we can't continue to add sections to our website until it becomes impossible to navigate. So that is another challenge actually that we have. And in some ways, I guess, Keith, you're on the board, so we should set up some kind of priority system of, these are the things we need to do to help people advocate on our behalf. What's first, what's second, what's third?
Yeah.
No, I like it. I think we have some good stuff to move out and give our administrative assistant, virtual assistant, something to do and kind of help tackle some of those things as well. But good suggestion, Keith. I like it.
Can I speak to this for a moment, guys?
Absolutely.
Sure. All right, I'm here. So when you go to a show and you go watch what happens on the show floor, with rare exception, nothing happens for a vendor on the show floor if they haven't been on the stage before then to give people a reason to come by. And I can't remember seeing NSITSP ever get in front of a group at a show, and maybe I just missed it, and do that. And I think
we've done it at several exchanges and several Channel Pro events.
Yeah, we have.
Okay.
And at Dave Siebel's event.
And what?
At Dave Siebel's event, I think Karl spoke.
Oh yeah,
um,
and Tech Fest.
SMB Tech Fest. So I haven't been to very many channel pros and I missed that. I'm surprised to hear Exchange, you did it too. I'm surprised to see that.
Twice.
Okay, is anybody doing it next week at Exchange Security?
No, nobody will be there, but I know we have a couple of members that will be there to do that advocacy from the floor. And then part of that conversation is Chris and I will have some conversations in time with Tracy and Bill to figure out how to go do that. They're becoming a lot more, as you guys are aware. I mean, the trade show space, they don't know if we're a competition or we're partners, right? And so they just want to charge and do everything else. So what we're seeing now is they're looking more for industry advocate partners like ourselves and GTIA and others to actually come and do some different things to grow. Because they understand that we both have access to people that they want, and it just makes sure that they're promoting the community. So that's a goal for us to have that conversation with them next week as well.
And just
So you're going to be there, Corey?
Yeah, I'll be there. Chris will
It's
be
in your
there.
hometown-ish. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'll be there. I would
Awesome.
love to learn more about that. Thank
Sure.
you.
And Joshua, thank you for that question, because I've been saying that for a while, and I think pretty much the entire board agrees. The activity level skyrockets if somebody's talking about it on stage and then you have a booth. Like I
Yeah.
completely agree with that sentiment.
And Corey, I have what I believe are some good ideas in terms of how to get people's attention about this.
Okay.
Because most MSPs, I know almost 1,500 personally, and not 10% of them know what NSI TSP is about, and I don't think 20% have ever heard of it. And that's a low bar that we can clear or improve greatly this way.
100%. Definitely
Yep.
agree.
Thanks.
Steve, I see you got your hand up there, buddy. So proper.
Yeah, there we go. Always about process. Karl and Corey, great job. Fantastic presentation. I'm inspired and motivated by what you guys have said. Question for both of you guys. As a position of being the voice of the MSP, NSITSP has taken positions on cybersecurity, which we should probably do more of. Have you given any thought to taking positions on AI as it impacts the MSP market? And are there a couple of ideas or positions that the NSITSP should consider over the next quarter or so to get out into the marketplace? I'll take my answer off the air.
So Tay, I'll let you jump in as well. I mean, you think this is a tough one, right? I think there's definitely a need for us to do that, right? Whether that's either starting off with an acceptable use policy and updating the code of conduct to be able to include some of those things, right? That's a tough one. I think that's something we need to bring back and look at it and say, how do we go out there and do it without alienating everybody? But I do believe that's something that the industry needs to start talking about when it comes to AI, data governance, and all the other things from that perspective. I think we should be definitely looking at how that goes.
If I can make a comment from the legislative committee's point of view, what we've been doing is we've been looking at it. We generally decided to stay away from doing positions for or against AI in any specific type of thing, but are more trying to keep people aware of things that are being passed. You might have noticed the blog post I put up there just recently that Illinois has just passed an AI essentially accountability law that Pritzker just signed this past week. But we're trying to keep track of what's going on and keeping things that we think are affecting the MSP market from the AI side, making it known as what's happening out there and trying to, rather than trying to take a position, is this good or is this bad? I think AI is too broad of a subject to really say, yes, it's good. No, it's bad.
I'd like to throw a different opinion out there. I run some community groups and advocacy groups on different topics. I really think being controversial and allowing respectful, non-political bias debate helps get traction going. I've released some blogs, and I don't know if on political topics that have caused some great traffic to our organization. I think we just have to be careful. We can't be saying, all the political rhetoric that's out there, but you can take a controversial position tactfully, and it almost be great to have someone counter it in the organization and get the flow going and really get people thinking. So I think that being controversial, and as long as we're not offensive, is positive.
Yeah, I think this is one of those things where we're not going to get everybody's opinion and be on the same page. But I think as an org, we got to come up and say what makes sense. And I think you said the key word is non-political in that situation, because all these can become very clear. And again, our goal is to, one, raise awareness, but also put a clear stance on how it aligns with our code of conduct, and let that be our true north of where it comes back to, right? Is that if you are going to go down that AI path, and I think you need to tell people that I'm leveraging AI to do certain things. If not, you're going 100% against what you would say is my code of conduct, right? I'm hiding something, right? So I think we have to make sure and look at that and let that guide us to where we go. And sometimes it may be a little controversial, but I think we're all grown-ups and smart enough to be able to figure out that, hey, how do we go out there and align that? Be truthful, be honest, be upfront about what you're doing. So therefore we understand where it goes.
I think
last year there was, Steve and I discussed it with the committee. There was I forgot the topic, but something that's the first release was pretty politically biased. And we re-released that as a non-biased, still making the point. And I thought that was a great example of how we can come out on something that wasn't government funding of something. And the first run of that came out really attacking the administration and causing a divide over the real topic. And that was revised to a more direct, to the point, why we need this organization funded. And
Yeah, I think what happened was we had a draft of it and we circulated the draft, and we got useful comments on the draft and revised the draft. And so that the document that eventually was released was more to the point, more focused, more balanced. So that was, as Keith said, a great example of, coming to a consensus, over a document and over a position. And I think, the organization is professional and mature and ethical. And so, we're in a great position to keep doing that, right? And come to that consensus.
I think on AI, I don't think it is controversial to say you should be adopting this. You should be training your clients. You should be absolutely showing them how to do this securely, because, this is worse than, BYOD, bring your own destruction, where people brought in, 2 terabyte hard drives and just downloaded shit and put it on their, own drive. People are putting their company's proprietary information into the training modules of AI and don't even know that they're doing it. So those discussions about guardrails and safety and security, I don't think that's particularly controversial, in my opinion. And it's quite consistent with our code of ethics.
No, I agree. I think I think those are the key pieces of raising that awareness and finding that right pace of making it as non-controversial. We're just speaking the truth and the facts, right? It's saying, here's what's happening, and just be aware. But I think we definitely got to go and spend some time and figure out that right balance for sure.
I was fascinated to hear Keith's commentary about that post, because I don't know what he's referring to. I'm curious to know how that played out. I think it's a great idea not to worry about being controversial, just be truthful and respectful. I don't think we should worry about that as much as we should worry about having something useful to say and having actionable recommendations, suggestions to work with. I think that's the goal, should be. the goal. I think it is the goal of the organization. But that was interesting to hear. It is pretty hard to talk about anything and have it stay apolitical right now. And that's a significant problem with society. But I'm not sure that we should be all that worried about it. I'm sorry. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, I think if you look at where we are and what we do on a daily basis, just about everything we do is political and controversial to everything, right? Whether we're talking about how we talk about cyber, how we talk about all these things. And I think it helps you level up to be able to have those difficult conversations. And I love the fact that we're trying to teach others how to have that and make it aware and what's relevant, right? I mean, Chris, you had the taxing of service dollars in Maryland, right? I mean, that's got to be driving you crazy.
Yeah. Don't get me started, man. Got into a heated argument with the governor over that.
Right. And, we had the no porn over VPN conversation was that Montana, right? We had the right to repair law in California. Obviously, we got the safe harbors. We got a lot of stuff that we talked to. But the one thing that we did see, and Steve, you remember this one on that controversy, was CISA and the funding. People were very receptive and open to us taking a stance and supported that from that perspective. So I thought that was a good model. While we do, again, we don't have to take a stance on everything, but there's some things that we definitely have to lead from that perspective on the front on where we feel we need to go and how it would impact us for sure.
So I agree completely. While I can understand now how that seemed political to state the obvious that CISA needs to be well funded and reasonably run, at least now I have a grasp of how something you guys are involved in became political. And if we were not to take such a stand, that would be an embarrassment to me, and I hope the organization. You do have to take that stand. If people interpret that as political, that is their own
Well,
challenge.
and you can't help people from interpreting things as political. I did a presentation at Exchange, and Corey was there, and it was completely nonpartisan. But I did say we need to advocate for security, right? Da 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 da. I'm sorry, Jason was there, and CRN the next day says, NSITSP takes on Trump, and I'm like, what the hell? Like, there was nothing that could have been, farther from the truth in that presentation. But he said, I asked the author about it. I'm like, what the hell, dude? And he said, I plead guilty to clickbait. Like, I need people to read my articles. I'm like, oh, well, good for you.
I mean, he's making sure he's getting paid.
My comment, Josh, on the CISA funding was the original draft sounded more like an attack piece than an education piece. I think the message came out better as the language was toned. It was let's see, it was certain man bad, and it didn't focus directly on the issue what was at stake. And you could underline that the current administration was making those cuts, and that was not good. But the original tone of that document came, and we have to remember that regardless of what side we're on, when you do that, you attack half the audience, roughly, right? So we have to. I thought it was greatly redefined as an education piece versus an attack piece. That's my opinion.
Yep. Well, I can see where this gets gray.
Right.
Okay. Were I to write about something like that, I would stridently point out that these decisions have to be made by the administration with the best interests of the country and not with the best interests of campaigning or marketing or speaking to a narrow audience.
Right.
And even that would be interpreted as an attack, but it's not. It's a statement.
Yeah.
This is a critical time, and that's a critical infrastructure, and that for all decisions around it are critical. Now I really want to read the first release, but okay.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at what's happening in the government right now around AI and pulling Fable and pulling all the other things, right? It's just as controversial what you got going on, right? So if you speak on AI, it's going to go that route, right? Are we challenging and bucking the norm, right? what we're doing is we're saying, hey, here's the reality of what's happening and how it affects us and where it comes from. And we believe. Now, the conversation is, are we saying that, hey, do we believe that the government needs to be that involved in making those decisions and pull those things out? I don't know. We just got to talk through it, but make sure we stay on the up and up, right? That's going to go political because of where it stands. It has no choice. But I think we have enough people to go down that path to put out the right. We showed that before, but really lean on educating and informing, because there's a lot of things that are happening that we're just not aware of, and we need to make the membership aware and show them the value that this is happening in their backyard, right? And you have to. Everybody knows about the Texas Wall of Shame. So many MSPs that live in Texas have no idea, right? And that's basically, if you get attacked, you have to put your name and your business and how many Texans it affected on the Attorney General's webpage, and then what did you do to remediate that, right? So now you're up there, and all that is a place for all the lawyers to basically hang out and hit you with class action suits. That's all we see daily. It's pretty bad. Go ahead, Steve. I know we're going to follow up. This will probably be the last question.
Hey,
I know
Corey,
we
just one other thing real quick, just in terms of content, that, again, thinking, ChannelCon's coming up in 4 weeks, and I have a sense that there's a bit of confusion or comparison, or maybe, well, if I'm in one, why do I need to be in the other? I don't know if we have that sort of clarification. It might be good to have. I know, I'm sure a bunch of us will be there in San Diego next month, but that might be good to have in our back of our head, as well as maybe on some paperwork or positioning, right? I think that would be a really helpful just distinction there to have.
For sure. No, I appreciate that, Frank.
Yeah, I'll be there the whole time. I'm happy to talk about this with anyone.
Yep, as will I.
Yeah.
So I'm going to throw out a plug for an educational topic that we're going to run on a webinar coming up that's non-product focused, that is MSP educational, and it's going to be about how MSPs can onboard new employees at their clients. And so I think that's an example of a topic where MSPs can benefit from coaching or a new idea or a better way to do something. And if we want to get into a series of those types of educational webinars, I'm happy to participate and pitch in and help out. This particular webinar also comes with some money from, a vendor. So we sort of get the best of both worlds, a little education for the members, but also a little bit of money to go into the coffers. So if you guys have ideas of topics that would be educational, that, the members could benefit from, let's share those and figure out a way to spread that word out to the membership.
Corey, does he talk to you about that?
Yeah, that's correct. That's the one we've been working on and going back and forth. The one I sent to the
two-tier
for sure.
whatever it is.
Correct. Yep.
That's a great topic, because I think we too often pretend like we're real smart and talk too technical when we're really service companies. And I don't want to get down that path. People disagree with me on that, but I think that's a great topic, Steve, where we're really focused on customers and experience and being a service company.
Okay. Thank you for the time.
No, for sure. Thank you, guys. Well, again, I know we have on respectful time. We're at the top of the hour. I really appreciate everybody coming out and really appreciate the support. Please don't let this be the end of our conversation. Email us, do what we got to get done, have a conversation with us to figure out how we grow. We really look forward to that. And again, thank you for your participation.
All right. We have a board meeting next week. You're all welcome, obviously. And we have a webinar at the end of the month on the continuing education program. So go to the events page and sign up for everything. So.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you all.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.